Alright, so I just did this video back to back because, like, why not? We're going to be talking about prototyping, playtesting. I mean, they're all sort of like in the same vein. And so I was just like, hey, might as well continue with this conversation. And so I'm still wearing the same shirt. It is not 2 weeks later. It is not a month later or whatever. It is just a continuation from the last video. So hello again. I swear I do change my clothes. It's just that this is from like 5 minutes ago. So if you missed my spiel last time, this is a Kolok shirt. Kolok is by Hyper RPG, and it is a live stream. It is a live stream of a tabletop role-playing game. Kolok uses the Kids on Bike system, and it's very simple. It's a very simple system, and the show itself, like the live stream itself on Hyper RPG, is phenomenal. Like every single episode is just mind-blowingly beautiful and experimental and just so much fun to watch because it is, I probably can't swear on this, but it's a total mind. So if you're interested in horror, if you're interested in mystery, if you're interested in like David Lynch stuff, then check out Kolok. It is on the FearHQ channel, which is by Hyper RPG. All right, so prototyping. So this is like one of those things which I love doing and hate doing at the same time. It's sort of just like, I have so much more stuff that I have to do, like all this stuff is going to be added to my checklist, but at the same time, once you're done with it, you're just like, ooh, this is really cool. Like, I'm so proud of myself for like doing this thing. So let's talk a little bit about it. What is prototyping? When you are creating a game, you are going to have prototypes, and prototypes are sort of like the first draft of your thing, right? And it doesn't even have to be like the first draft of the book. It could be like before the book. It could be like the character sheets or, you know, the maps or, you know, the different things that you're going to have that make the system work. So before I do any sort of prototyping, what I like to do is I usually like to have like a brainstorming session with my team, if I have a team or if I'm working with a team. Otherwise, I do a brainstorming session by myself. Very lonely here. So in this brainstorming session, you would just sort of talk about like, you know, what do you want in the system? What kind of cool things do you want to engage with in this system, in this game? What kind of themes do you want? And how is the theme going to mesh with the system itself? During this time, you would do like a lot of brainstorming. You would just talk to your peers, or you'd be just like, you know, pinning pieces of paper onto like a cork board and placing string in between them, because that's totally a normal thing to do. Either before or after brainstorming, you're probably going to be doing a lot of research and discovery as well. So research and discovery is the time where you're just going to be consuming a lot of stuff and doing research. If there's a game out there that you think that is sort of similar to what you want to make, then play it, read it, see how the you know, the finer details work and click together, and see if maybe there's something that you can like use or take inspiration from in that game and use it for your own game. Obviously, without plagiarizing or like stealing mechanics or like, you know, anything like that. You're just like seeing this other game, taking inspiration from it and trying to make it your own. So once you've done a little bit of brainstorming, a little bit of research, you are probably on your way to making a first prototype. First prototype, like I said, it could just be like a bunch of character sheets and, you know, some dice. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be like a thing that could potentially work. And if it falls apart, it falls apart, whatever. The goal of the first prototype is honestly just to get like all of your thoughts onto paper, all of your thoughts into a physical space or a digital space if you're playing, you know, online on Google Slides or whatever you're using, or Roll20 or Roll. And you're making sure that this thing has legs, right? Like you're making sure that this thing can work and it's got like, you know, potential, and you're making sure that you have the skeleton down before you just like say, hey, this might not work, or let's get rid of this thing or whatever. So you're just building a skeleton, and from that skeleton, you're just gonna iterate on it. You're gonna put more stuff into it and you're gonna flesh it out. That was like a lot of like corpsey language. It's very like morbid. Spend a couple of weeks making this thing and playtesting it by yourself or with like a small group that you trust. And just like seeing if like, you know, things are actually going to fit the way that you think that they're going to fit. After you've done some playtesting by yourself or with your team, then you can start thinking about making a second prototype. So the second prototype is going to be a lot more fleshed out, and it might have a lot of stuff to it. And that's okay. Like just throw in all the stuff, right? Just put it all in there. Like you want to see if something works, just see if it works and just throw it in there. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, just throw up everything into the second prototype. All of this looks very, very chaotic and just like disorganized, but on paper, when you plan it out, it's actually pretty organized. I'm gonna drop a link in the description below just to like give you a diagram or like a template for you to follow when you like, you know, plan out your stuff. But going back to the second prototype, it is a mess. It is probably just blah, like just overbloated and just like a lot of stuff. And that's okay, because you're gonna playtest this. And when you start playtesting, that is when you realize that certain things can just get removed, right? Like you just remove things, playtesters will tell you like, hey, does this really have to be there? Or you'll recognize that certain mechanics aren't even being used. And if they're not even being used and the game is fun and everyone's having a good time, does it really need to be there? And so once you do some development with the second prototype, you're gonna go into your third prototype. The third prototype is where you're starting to just shave things off, right? Like getting rid of things. You have this hunk of marble and you're just like chipping things away and you are just getting rid of things. And sometimes I think that like as artists, as like creatives, as designers, we can get pretty precious over things, and this is a good exercise in us trying to let go of things and just trying to make a game that works and trying to make like a game that is fun for the people that you're playing it with. So you've removed a whole bunch of stuff. Now you are on to your fourth prototype. Your fourth prototype, you're probably playtesting it with like a larger audience now. Maybe you're taking it to conventions. Maybe you're showing it off to like, you know, maybe not strangers. Well, I guess if it's at a convention, it's probably a stranger, but you're probably sharing it with like a lot of different people now. You're probably going into podcasts and doing, you know, live streams and marketing this game. And it's okay if it's still in this prototype phase, as long as you're getting the word out there. Like that's also equally as important, just like doing playtests online and live streaming it. Because it does reveal a bit of like the process, which I think is really fascinating, and how much it changes from like prototype to like final product is honestly kind of cool looking. And you sort of look at like the play tests and you're just like, oh wow, I did this on a live stream like a year ago and now look at it. It's like a final product and you're just like really impressed with yourself. You know what I mean? So I would say like if you want to, like definitely find some live streams to see if they're interested in play testing your game, because it doesn't hurt. It definitely just like gives you more exposure for your game. I hate that word. The fourth prototype, you are tweaking this thing. You are just making sure that it is working, it is good to go. And for me, this is like the easiest part of the entire process, right? You're just shaving things down, you're tweaking words, you're tweaking verbiage, and a lot of the stuff along the way, you're probably already writing in like a book as well. So you have your character sheets, you have like all the stuff, and you also have like the book that you have been filling out chapter by chapter, you know, doing all this stuff, doing all this work, explaining like, you know, what each mechanic is. And at the very end of it, you have a thing. You have like your awesome game that you've developed and play tested. And then from there, all you have to do is get it to an editor and pray for them, because they're gonna do all of the hard work from there on out. I hope that gave you some insight into like what the prototyping and development process looks like for me. And I'm gonna leave a link, like I said, in the description below so that you can see like a template of how I plan out everything. So what does prototype 1 look like? What does that phase look like? What does prototype 2's phase look like? And so that way, if you wanted to, you can use the same format, or if you want to tweak it, you know, customize it to your own thing, then you can definitely do so as well. So next video, I'm actually not too sure what I'm going to be talking about next. I think I might talk about how I got started, but if you have anything that you want me to cover, then please leave a comment down below, and do like this video. I would really appreciate it. It does help out the algorithm so that, you know, people can find my stuff. And also, if you can, I would really, really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!